Today's partner is Synder, an easy-to-use accounting solution for e-commerce businesses to keep track of multiple sales channels in one ecosystem. Listen to the podcast, grab your Synder coupon, and find hidden streams of income in 2022. Running a small business can be stressful. You'll do anything to free up headspace and work on the parts of the business you're passionate about, but there are only 24 hours in the day. The problem is you're wearing so many different hats that important things slip through the cracks or get deprioritized. In fact, 41% of small business owners handle everything themselves, including the highly specialized field of accounting and finance. Luckily, technology for automating and simplifying accounting and finance tasks is getting better by the day. Synder is one example of a tool that streamlines financial business processes and frees up your time for other important tasks. Using the solution, you can easily track your revenue and expenses from all sales and payment channels in one place and generate a P&L report in a few clicks. Super important if you're busy with tax filing at the moment. Synder has a free trial, and you can also get up to 40% off on yearly plans with exclusive code EASYBOOKS, one word. Don't leave the profitability of your business to chance. Use Synder instead. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Jeff Buller Show. Today with me, Raul Galera. Now, Raul is the chief advocate of Referral Candy, the #1 referral program platform online, and we'll discover a little bit more about that soon. Referral Candy has been one of the pioneer referral marketing companies in the e-commerce industry. It's worked with thousands of brands, including Reebok, UniQlo, Tidal, among many others. Since its launch in 2009, they have over 30,000 paying users with over 10 million annual revenue. What's even more cool is that since they paid out over 300 million in referral commissions to clients, and we'll discover a bit more about that as well. So referrals are the key for a lot of businesses, as we know. For instance, Morning Brew has reached over 2.5 million subscribers, and that'd be really cool to actually dive into that case study a bit from using Referral Candy's program. Same goes for Harry's, and I assume that is the Harry's shaving brand, I would suggest. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and where they've gained 100,000 emails using the platform in a single week. What we're going to talk about is basically what Referral Candy does, how it can help your business, how it can help online stores, and we're going to talk about power of word of mouth marketing and loyalty. So welcome to the show, Raul. Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Raul is actually in Mexico at the moment because he can. Because as we know, in the more digital and virtual world we live in, you can almost work from anywhere. So if you notice the lovely white sort of whitewashed walls behind, that doesn't look like a corporate office. It isn't. It's in Mexico somewhere. So Raul, what got you into this type of work with Referral Candy? And then we'll talk more about what Referral Candy does. So how did you get into Referral Candy and get this role?
Yeah. So I was also in. So I'm from Spain. And after I finished college, I went to work for a French startup in Santiago, in Chile. So I moved across the Atlantic, and I moved to Chile. And I worked for this company for a couple of years. And that was again kind of like my first kind of work experience after college. I did sales. It was a little bit of business development, but it was mostly a sales position. And I guess that's kind of where what I decided that's going to be my background, and that's what I like doing, and that's where I wanted to kind of specialize in. And then so I worked at this company. We did recruiting for other startups. Mm-hmm. But then actually from being exposed to other startups that obviously were my clients, and kind of like learning what other tech companies were doing, I decided that I wanted to be involved in the tech world. I wanted to work for a software company. And so after I left Chile in 2016, I went on AngelList, and I started looking because I knew the AngelList was pretty much the only place to find, back then at least, to find a remote job, or at least to find companies that were open to hire people remotely, because it wasn't that common back then. In 2016, it was only 5 years ago, but it wasn't really that common. And I saw that Referral Candy had a sales position, and I started looking into the company, what they did. particularly loved the fact that it was a pretty kind of like honest way of doing marketing. It's basically like turning your customer base into your marketing people. So I thought, it must be pretty easy to sell this product, right? And so instead of applying through AngelList, I sent a cold email to the CEO, to Dinesh.
Yep.
He replied. We had a couple of interviews, and the rest is history.
Yes, and you've been working virtually ever since. In other words,
Yep.
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 So does the Referral Candy actually have an office, or are they like GitHub? They don't. They essentially just are all virtual or remote.
Yeah, so we're obviously all remote now since March 2020. But we had an office actually before then, and I used to go to Singapore. At least I don't know if I mentioned it, but Referral Candy is in Singapore.
Okay.
And I used to go to Singapore a couple times a year to like get to meet people in person and like hang out at the office and work from there. And it's always good to meet your colleagues in person. It actually took me, I think it was like a year and a half before I actually met my boss in person.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah. So it was a while. But yeah, we had an office. We were actually lucky that our lease ended like right after COVID. So when we were all remote, and I don't know exactly what we're gonna do after, because we've started to hire people, that are also working remotely, like myself, and also some of our colleagues are starting to also kind of like travel and like experience a little bit of this kind of like digital nomad type of setup. So we don't know exactly what's going to look like in terms of having a physical office. We might have some sort of hybrid between in person and remote, but yeah, we don't really know yet.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of companies don't know.
Yeah.
And some are going to go totally remote, some are going to be hybrid, and some are going to, I suppose, drag people kicking and screaming back into the office.
Exactly. Oh, I think I read somewhere that, I forget which company it was. I think it was like, there were a couple of financial companies that this summer they announced that they were going to force everybody to go back to the office in September. And I think like 30% of the workforce threatened to quit. They didn't actually end up quitting. I think also because they reversed the decision. But yeah, a lot of people are not willing to go back to an office at all.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time, and I think we're basically accelerated remote or virtual work by maybe 10 years is my sort of prediction. Well, what I think's happened. So we've basically moved 10 years into the future because COVID's basically accelerated the evolution of how we communicate and work.
Yeah.
Before we get into what Referral Candy does and a bit more about what you do, apart from travel and just have fun, and we know you're working really hard. The boss might be watching this.
True.
In fact, by watching this, he's actually seeing you are working because you've been the chief.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So look, you're already good. So, how do you maintain company culture and communication at Referral Candy? Because it's very interesting in the way different companies do it. So what does like a typical week look like, from team meetings to individual work and recording asynchronous videos, which is the latest thing about asynchronous communication, which anyone can view at any time because it's recorded. What's a typical week look like for Referral Candy in a virtual office world?
That's a really good question. So before COVID, we were mostly kind of like a traditional company in the sense of working from an office. It's true that even my colleagues that had to work from the office, they still had a pretty flexible schedule, in the sense that you don't have to come in at a certain time and leave at another time, and you can work from home if you want to. Nobody's going to ask questions just because you're stand up and leave, right? Like it's really, I was really flexible, and like we've always had as a company, we've had the culture of we're hiring you because you are a professional in your field and how to do your job. So we're not here to tell you when or how you have to work. You're just here to deliver. And so that worked really well for people that like going to an office, like our colleagues in Singapore, and people like myself that from the very beginning I was looking for a remote position in which I have kind of like a little bit more freedom in terms of where I work from, right?
Yep.
And so one of the things, the reason why I started mentioning this is because one of the main kind of like, I would say like cultural aspects that, or something that we did at Referral Candy, that unfortunately I didn't get to participate that much, except for when I actually went to Singapore, we're having team lunches. So we'll have lunch catered to the office every day. And the reason for that was to be able to have kind of like conversations away from computers, get to talk to people that are from different departments and like, kind of create this sense of camaraderie that it actually stayed after we all went remote. And so in terms of how to build this kind of like company culture, I think it's more about kind of like, how do you organize your company, in my opinion, and kind of like that motto of, you're a professional, we're hiring you for a reason, we're hiring you because you know how to do your job and we don't need to tell you how to do it. That's the reason why for us it was super easy to transition from physical to online, and we didn't really see any sort of kind of like downtime in terms of performance or in terms of how our teams were organizing themselves, because we have the structure in place. On top of that, obviously, we still try to have like online events within the company, either on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, in which we might do kind of like an online game type of event for a couple hours, or team meetings in which the whole company kind of meets together and we share updates about what different teams are working. But yeah, I think it's the fact that we had kind of like that strong culture of how we organize ourselves as a company that has allowed us to move into a virtual world without really seeing any sort of hiccup.
Yeah, it's true. So in other words, the company culture was essentially to hire the right attitude at number one, and that means hire grown-ups actually. So that's really good. Because the old culture was management by walking around. In other words, the boss has got to see you. Otherwise, you're not going to do work. You're just going to be on Facebook all the time. So in terms of team meetings, and I just want to, because I think it's important that I think entrepreneurs are either starting or already out there growing their business, that there's different ways to work, and there's not one size fits all. So, how many team meetings would you have a week, for example, and how's that broken up in terms of organisation? Like overall, one company meeting maybe. Is there an asynchronous, recorded video sent out once a week by the boss, CEO, founder, and then do you have individual sort of smaller team meetings? What's that look like in a week?
Yeah, so I can speak from, I run partnerships, but that's part of the marketing department.
Yep.
And so I can speak for the marketing department, other kind of like engineering and product and support. They have kind of like different setups. But from my personal experience, what my week looks like, we usually start the week with a marketing meeting in which we kind of like update ourselves into what we worked on the past week, what we're intending to work on this week, any blockers, anything we might need from other coworkers. That's kind of like the right time to bring it up. And that usually happens on Mondays. And then I typically have one-on-ones with the marketing director, with the CEO, with the co-founders. That's either on a weekly basis or on a bi-weekly basis. And then on a monthly basis, we have one kind of like the all hands meeting, in which the whole company kind of share updates. Obviously, on top of that, there's always ad hoc meetings that pop up, but that's kind of like the main structure. And another thing is that since we have colleagues working in many different time zones, we try to keep communication as asynchronous as possible, in the sense that, unless something is truly urgent, if you get a message from somebody on Slack, that doesn't mean that, they're expecting you to reply right away. It's just, kind of like the easiest way to communicate. That's something that a lot of companies have apparently struggled with, is that they kind of like understood that Slack was like immediate, kind of like a text message. You're supposed to reply right away. Otherwise they would use email. And so that I know that created a lot of friction, in some companies. But yeah, I think that especially if you have a distributed team, having that sense of kind of like, asynchronous work, and your team is remote too, your team is also working from multiple time zones, exactly what I'm referring to. I think that's a key, like knowing that people are working from different places and they have different schedule and respecting that.
Yeah, that's right. It's you just got to work out a way in which it works with company, and so you can maintain company culture, and that's really, really important as well. And a feeling of belonging, as well, that you're involved, that you're contributing, all that. So you mentioned some tools, you mentioned the Slack. So in terms of the key tools that you guys use to facilitate and collaborate with, what are some of the key tools that you guys have found useful for your work and business?
Yeah, I would say number one, Slack. And then on top of that, for project management, we either use, well, I was going to say Clubhouse, now it's called Shortcut, or Trello. Those are the kind of like the two main tools that we use for kind of like coordinating projects. I think the engineering and product, they might use other kind of tech stack, but for the marketing department, that's what we work with.
Yeah, we use Trello, and as I said to my team about a year ago, I said it's changed my life. And of course, then you've got Zoom, which is maybe your video channel. But yeah, Trello for me has just been this tool that you can track and do processes. You can keep. It doesn't turn into an email thread, nightmare. And the team basically had to drag me a little bit kicking and screaming into Trello. My marketing manager said to me, "When are you going to use it, Jeff?" And I went, "Just be patient. I'm working on it." And so, because I'm maybe the least technical out of all. Look, I started my own WordPress blog, in 2009, so I can do stuff. Except my team can do it much faster than me, whereas I'm sort of wrestling. I'm wrestling and wrangling the software, and and one little thing happened before we even started here. I had a virtual background I didn't want to use and had to remove it. So my team would have fixed it in about 10 seconds. Took me about 10 minutes. No, it didn't take me 10 minutes. It took me a couple of minutes. But so it's, that's the thing too, isn't it? Like virtual work is that a lot of the older generation would struggle a bit more with that. And I've seen that. Is they're going, where's the button to join, or how do I actually, and why is my sound not working on Zoom? So it's really cool. So it's great to hear how you work. Now let's get on to the main topic of what is Referral Candy and what do they do? And the third question, which we can answer in sequence if you like, is how does it work? So, so let's dive into what's Referral Candy. Tell us what it is.
So Referral Candy is an app for e-commerce stores, and we basically allow them to set up and run customer referral programs on autopilot. Right. So it's if you have an online store and it's been operating for a while and you have a number of customers, there's always going to be that factor of word of mouth that's potentially going to play out naturally, just because your customers are going to talk to their friends and family about the product that they bought from your store. And so what we do is just to put that on steroids, just like make it easy for everybody, make it easy for the store to set it up, and make it easy for customers to refer their friends.
Okay. So now, where did the idea come from, Referral Candy? Do you know that? Because part of my curiosity is what I love with the interviews with the senior management of companies and also the founders of companies is where did your idea come from? Because people are full of ideas. Some people just have ideas and don't act on them. Some people have ideas and act on them all the time. So where did the idea for Referral Candy come from?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I was obviously not part of the company. I was actually in college, but by the time that this idea came up, that our founders came up with the idea, so I was still pretty far from joining the company. But in 2009, both of the founders, who are both from Singapore, but they met in the US because they were attending Carnegie Mellon and kind of like one of the top engineering schools over there, and when they got back to Singapore, they were having lunch with a friend that had just started an online store. An online store in 2009 was a lot different than what it is right now. But he started this online store. I forget exactly what product this person was selling, but the kind of like the conversation came about the fact that so social media was on the rise back then. I kind of remember my college days. That's when Facebook started to get really popular.
So what year was that basically?
2009, 2010.
It was.
So yeah, it's Yeah, I mean, I was on Facebook all day. In class, I always had my Facebook tab open. I remember that was exactly the kind of like the boom of Facebook. And so this entrepreneur that was a friend with our co-founders, he had this online store, and he knew that his customers were talking to their friends and family about it, but he didn't have a way of tracking that down. He didn't have a way of encouraging them to keep referring, and he also wanted to leverage the social media, right? This thing where everybody's hanging out and we're all sharing links that we're enjoying. And he said, well, there's got to be a way that we can leverage social media to encourage people to refer. And that's how the idea came about. Obviously, that went through several kind of like processes, iteration processes as a product, and eventually became what Referral Candy is today. Kind of fun fact, we last year was our 10-year anniversary, because the product actually launched in 2010. So 2020 was our 10-year anniversary. And one of the things that I managed to find on Internet Archive as a screenshot from the Shopify App Store in 2010 with our app in there. There were only a handful of apps in the App Store. We had our logo, a different name back then, but it was there.
Today's partner is Synder, an all-in-one accounting solution for e-commerce businesses that brings your revenue, tax information, stock, and other key data in one place. Does your business use multiple sales channels such as Amazon, eBay, and your own website? Consolidating your financial data and keeping up with stock images can quickly get complicated as you grow. Luckily, technology is catching up. For example, Synder brings all of your revenue data into one helpful dashboard so you can get accurate KPIs for your business. It also provides a P&L, balance sheet, and stock report on hand whenever you need it. It's a game changer for e-commerce businesses that plan to scale. Sound like you? You can get a free trial of Synder and up to 40% off your chosen yearly subscription with the exclusive code EasyBooks. Okay. Yeah, it's fascinating. I started my online brand in 2009 as well. So I started writing about social media and started a blog, as everyone did back in 2009, right? So blogging was at its peak. For me, social media, the other thing that obviously I think Referral Candy's timing was mostly good, because social media back then was very organic before the algorithms crept in to stop people talking to their tribe unless you paid for it. So obviously the timing for Referral Candy would have been quite good. So tell us how would an online store, e-commerce store, implement Referral Candy, just in a simple thumbnail sketch, and what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. So setting it up, it's fairly simple if you're on one of the kind of like the main e-commerce platforms. So if you're on Shopify or BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento, the integration, it's either just kind of like a one click or it requires just a couple of steps. So integration is fairly simple just to get started. Even if you have your own kind of custom store set up and you're not on one of these platforms, you can still integrate with Referral Candy. We have an API, and we also have a couple other ways that you can integrate Referral Candy with your store. And so after you set it up, after you integrate, the first step that you need to take is to decide what are going to be the rewards. So how are you going to reward your customers to encourage them to refer their friends? And also, how are you going to encourage their friends to make that first purchase? So you can either do that. So you can either encourage customers to refer by giving them a discount or cash if you want. You can do that as well, or some sort of like custom gift, like a free product or something like that. And then for the friend, we also give the option of offering a coupon code that the friend can use on the first purchase. And in my opinion, sometimes it's even more important than the reward for the advocate. Giving a higher reward to the friend sometimes pays off even better than giving a higher reward to the customer. And then after they set it up, obviously Referral Candy comes with a set of email templates and pages, so you can kind of promote your referral program on autopilot. So after you launch, Referral Candy automatically invites new customers to join the program. It gives them a unique referral link so they can start referring their friends. And then once the friend completes the purchase, the customer that made the recommendation gets the reward, and the friend who's not a new customer gets an invite to join the referral program, and the cycle kind of starts all over again.
So it's pretty simple, really. So you, how many platforms, e-commerce platforms, do you integrate into? Pretty well every one of them?
Yeah, pretty much everyone. Yeah, so Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce, Magento, Volution, 3D Card, and then kind of like 3 additional integration options for if your store is not on one of those platforms, there's still 3 other ways that you can integrate with us.
All right, cool. So what else was I going to say ask about this? So in terms of some of the case studies you mentioned, so basically Morning Brew. Can you tell us a little bit about how Morning Brew have used it and what success they've had with it?
Yeah, so I believe Morning Brew, it's running their own referral program. They're not using Referral Candy. I think they've built they're either build their own platform, or they might be using some sort of solution. Okay. But it's true that Morning Brew, it's definitely one of those referral program examples that we all have in mind. Everybody that's working in the referral marketing industry remembers. Well, I would say remembers because I was going to talk about previous referral programs like Dropbox and Airbnb and Uber and PayPal. All these referral programs that help companies grow pretty much from scratch. And the Morning Brew examples, it's one of them. I think what all these referral programs have in common is the fact that they had a pretty interesting set of rewards that were really simple for people to understand. So, for example, in the Uber example, it was around $5 or $10, and it was fairly simple to pitch. It's either I get $10, you get $10. Simple as that. Use my referral link. Sign up for Uber, and we both get something out of it. Same for Airbnb, right? And so obviously something else that unifies all of these referral programs that they have really good products. So Morning Brew, PayPal, Dropbox, those are all products that were disruptive and really good, and people enjoyed using those products. So referrals were probably coming organically anyway. So putting a referral program on top of that, it was just a very easy way to scale it up and turn it into a customer acquisition monster like it did for all of them.
So you said the term you used before was basically we put your referral program on steroids.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
So let's say you're not an online store per se. In other words, you're not a Shopify, not a BigCommerce, but maybe you're selling a product or a service. You might be selling content. Okay, you might be selling training. And maybe it's hosted on WordPress, for example, and there's plugins for WordPress. So essentially, the referral program could help people build an email list out of that. Is that correct? Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, the referral program, the goal is to generate purchases at the end of the day. So we're actually the number one metric that we show merchants, it's revenue. It's how much revenue is your referral program generating from your customer referrals. So I mean, yeah, you're acquiring email addresses as well. You're acquiring customer information, but and you can use that to kind of continue growing your referral program. But the number one thing that you're going to acquire from your program is revenue. It's new revenue actually from customers that weren't aware of your store before.
So does Referral Candy plug into WordPress sort of stores and so on? Does it do that?
Yeah, WooCommerce. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, through WooCommerce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Are there any other platforms beyond WooCommerce that you said there's different ways to actually do it? Yeah,
so we have 3 other integration options. So we have a kind of like a fairly simple email or JavaScript integration that I guess the easiest one that's not a native integration, it's the email integration, which basically means that we need the store to insert a piece of code on the thank you page, which is the page that the customers land after they go through the checkout, and then either forward or BCC us the invoice emails, so we can see who's the customer that made the recommendation, the timestamp, the amount, and all that. We can use it to make sure that the person that clicked on the referral link is the same person that went through the store and made the purchase, and we can verify the whole referral transaction. The second way of integrating with Referral Candy, if you're not on a native integration, it's the JavaScript integration. It's a little bit more complex than the email integration, but for a developer, it's they can get it done in just a couple of hours. And then for stores that want maybe something a little bit more complex, we have the API, which allows them to do a lot more stuff in terms of creating kind of custom pages, custom emails for their referral program. So those are kind of like the three, I guess, standalone ways of integrating with Referral Candy if you're not on a supported platform or a platform that we have an integration with.
Okay, so the idea is that you're trying to be as open as possible to almost any platform that a purchase happens, that you can then send them a message, an automated message for them to actually, and for them to share or get a reward for joining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we try to be kind of platform agnostic in the sense that at the end of the day, anybody that has a checkout can integrate with Referral Candy. Okay. So, we try to make it as simple as possible.
All right, that's very cool. So, because a lot of our listeners are trying to grow a side hustle, for example, or want to start a business, and they're going, okay, I'm going to sell something, but it's not going to be an online store. So you're saying, yes, Referral Candy can be used for something where you're actually just purchasing a product or a service of some type. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's very good. So, what's the next sort of, is there any evolving products coming out of Referral Candy that you're moving into new markets or products with Referral Candy, or is it just basically trying to make it a better product and grow it?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of always been our focus, is to make it better. It's true that there's still a lot of room to grow within referral marketing itself. It's right now, I mean, obviously there's the affiliate side, which we have a lot of customers using Referral Candy to run affiliate program, which are slightly different than referral programs. We also have merchants using Referral Candy to work with influencers. So we're trying to, kind of like grow our product in a way that we can cater all these different forms of word of mouth. On top of that, we're always trying to experiment. Before COVID, we had a product called Candy Bar that was trying to help brick and mortar stores to run loyalty programs. So kind of like change the physical kind of like punch cards for digital ones. Obviously with COVID, that got a little upside down. And on the other side, Referral Candy that was working on e-commerce, it's what experienced a lot of growth after March 2020. So right now, all of our focus on Referral Candy, like you said, making the product better, which obviously, any product, there's always a lot of room to grow. And especially now there's a lot of competition in the e-commerce space. So we're one of the leaders in the space, but we got to fight for it, right? You can't really,
you can't relax.
No. Exactly. You can never relax. But at the same time, we're also looking at experiments on how we can, still in the referral marketing space, how we can add additional products or features for all these different ways, all these different forms of word of mouth that currently exist.
So what is some of your best, like, what sort of revenue growth percent? What's some of your best case studies, or don't have to name them necessarily, but what sort of uplift in sales as a percentage have you achieved for some of your customers?
Yeah, so some of our customers have been able to see over 30% increase in revenue. And by increase in revenue, I mean new revenue from new customers on a monthly basis from using Referral Candy. So this is revenue that, again, new revenue. It's customers that are buying from you for the first time, that it's likely they're going to continue doing so because they're now familiar with your brand. And one thing in particular that referred customers have is the fact that this is research behind it. I am not making it up, but there's research that shows that referred customers tend to spend more than customers acquired through other channels, and also stick around for longer. So this is new revenue that you're getting from new customers that have been referred by their friends for the first time, but you need to keep in mind that their lifetime value is going to be a lot bigger than that customers have been acquired through other channels, and that also might stick around for a lot longer. But that's probably one of the best case studies that we have. It's not unusual for merchants to have maybe not 30%, but a 10% monthly increase in new revenue from new customer, which it can really make an impact on your bottom line, especially when you consider that referral marketing, it's a performance-based marketing channel. So you're basically paying only when you are generating revenue. You don't have to worry about, a budget for an ads campaign that may or may not perform well. Here, they're only paying, or you're only giving discounts when your customers are referring friends and those friends are making purchases. So that's kind of the, like I said, it's not unusual for customers to get to that 10%. In fact, we typically tell merchants, and that's actually something they can see on our website, on our ROI page, is that if you kind of like follow the recommended steps that we lay out on how to launch a successful referral program, it shouldn't be difficult to get at least a 2% increase in new revenue from your program.
Right, cool. That's really good, because everyone's, especially in a world where social media's become less organic, and basically the platforms are trying to push you into paid. This is, in essence, it's a natural organic way of growing your customer and revenue, because it's the old word of mouth, and of course it's digital word of mouth that we're talking about here. So just to wrap it up, so how can people find you guys, Referral Candy? What's the best way to contact Referral Candy? Social media or email, whatever. What's the best way to contact you guys?
Yeah, so it'll be our website, referralcandy.com. On social media, we're Referral Candy, at Referral Candy on pretty much any platform, except for TikTok. We're not there yet, but we might be there soon. Who knows? And then if they want to contact me directly, that will be Raul G. So RAULG at referralcandy.com. I'm always happy to start a conversation there.
Awesome. Thanks, Raul, for a fabulous conversation. I think the platform sounds very cool, and we might have implemented ourselves, actually.
Awesome.
I'll speak to the team, and we'll share this with our audience. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and great to chat to you from me in Sydney and you in Mexico. And look forward to maybe bumping you in real life somewhere in one corner of this big planet.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was my pleasure.
Thanks, Raul. It's been a pleasure too.